Everyone keeps saying Shedeur Sanders isn't really the guy in Cleveland, that Todd Monken might already be looking elsewhere. But if you actually listen, really listen, the story doesn't add up. Because behind the headlines, something completely different is unfolding and almost nobody is catching it. And once you connect the dots, the entire narrative falls apart. It didn't start with a breaking headline, it didn't come from a confirmed report, and that's exactly what makes this whole situation so strange. Somewhere along the way, a narrative began to build around Shedeur Sanders, one that suggests he's not truly favored in Cleveland, that he might already be on the outside looking in. But when you try to trace that narrative back to its source, things get unclear. Because there isn't one defining moment, no controversial quote, no sideline incident, no report of tension inside the Cleveland Browns locker room, just a collection of assumptions repeated often enough that they started to feel real. And that's how narratives like this take shape. It usually begins with a small detail, something vague, something open to interpretation. Maybe it's a coach saying a position is still to be determined. Maybe it's a neutral comment that doesn't fully commit to one player. On its own, it means very little. But once it gets picked up, analyzed, debated, and reinterpreted across multiple platforms, it slowly transforms into something bigger. Now suddenly, it's not just a comment, it's a signal, a hint, a possible problem. And fans run with it. Social media clips get chopped, headlines get sharpened, and before long, the conversation shifts from what was said to what it might mean. That's where speculation starts filling in the gaps. And once speculation takes over, the original context almost disappears completely. Some fans believe there's something happening behind the scenes. Others think the media is overreacting. And then there are those who feel like this is being pushed intentionally to create pressure, to shape perception, or to control the narrative around Sanders before anything is officially decided. But here, the key detail that often gets overlooked. If something real was actually happening, something serious enough to justify all this doubt, you would expect to see more than just whispers. You'd expect tension to leak. You'd expect conflicting reports. You'd expect at least one moment where things felt undeniably off. But that hasn't happened. Instead, what we have is a narrative built almost entirely on interpretation, not confirmation. A storyline that keeps growing, even though the foundation behind it remains surprisingly thin. And that's when you have to pause and ask a simple question. Are people reacting to reality? Or are they reacting to a version of the story that's been shaped for them? Because once you start questioning that, the entire conversation begins to shift. But then you look at what's actually been said publicly, and that's where things take an unexpected turn. When the headlines claim controversy, it's easy to assume tension exists, but the truth often tells a very different story. Let's dig into what Todd Monken has actually said about Shedeur Sanders straight from the source. And spoiler, it's far from the narrative being spun. Back in early February, Monken spoke publicly about the quarterback room. His words, measured, professional, and pointedly supportive. He described the competition as open, yes, but he also expressed clear excitement about coaching the group, including Sanders. Am I excited about all the quarterbacks in the room? He asked. The answer was an emphatic yes. That's the kind of statement that doesn't hint at tension. It signals respect, acknowledgement, and an eagerness to work with talent. Dig a little deeper, and more examples appear. In January, Monken highlighted the positives players see in Sanders, noting that teammates wanted him to lead and were excited by his presence. These aren't casual remarks, they're endorsements. In the NFL, every word is weighed and coaches rarely hand out praise lightly. The fact that Monken spoke so openly about Sanders' potential leadership sends a clear message. He sees value, skill, and promise. Even Sanders himself has confirmed the dynamic. During Pro Bowl weekend, he described his interactions with Monken as straightforward and positive, nodding nothing but smiles in their first meeting. Sanders' demeanor, calm, respectful, and focused, underscores what Monken has said publicly. There's no drama, no resentment, no behind-the-scenes conflict leaking out. The key takeaway is this. The media narrative framing Monken as skeptical or distancing himself from Sanders is inconsistent with the facts. Every press conference, every public statement, and every interview paints a coach who is excited to mentor, assess, and develop his quarterback talent. Monken has not once disparaged Sanders or signaled that he's anything less than a serious competitor for the starting role. Reports suggest that some fans or outlets might be projecting doubts or reading between the lines, but when you stick to verified statements, the story changes. It's no longer about tension, it's about competition, opportunity, and measured support. Monken has done what every head coach should. He's made it clear he values his players, encourages competition, and is invested in seeing his quarterbacks succeed. And while speculation may continue to swirl, one thing stands out. When you separate rumor from reality, Monken's stance is unmistakable. He's confident in Sanders, he's excited to coach him, and he's setting the stage for what could be a defining season for the young quarterback. That's when the story quietly shifts from controversy to something much more compelling: a coach and a player fully aligned, ready to prove themselves on the field. Sometimes the moments that define a player's future happen quietly, off camera, under the radar, in a handshake or a simple conversation. That's exactly what happened when Shedeur Sanders met Todd Monken for the first time. Most fans didn't even notice it, but that interaction set the tone for everything to come. It wasn't flashy, no cameras blaring, no dramatic speeches, just two professionals sizing each other up. Sanders arrived in Cleveland, fresh from the draft, with all eyes on him. Monken, the new head coach, made it his business to reach out immediately. The handshake that followed wasn't just polite, it was loaded with unspoken meaning. "We tried to draft your ass last year," Monken joked, breaking the ice. Sanders laughed. The tension gone, respect instant. That brief moment spoke volumes about how these two would operate together going forward. And here's what most people missed. Sanders' reaction was textbook calm and professional. No ego, no over-the-top theatrics. He knew he was entering a quarterback competition, and he treated it like a challenge to be embraced, not a story to fuel the media. That humility and awareness immediately signaled to Monken that Sanders understood his role, the stakes, and the responsibility. The quarterback room isn't just about talent, it's about mindset, and Sanders passed the first test in that handshake. What makes this interaction dramatic isn't the laughter or the handshake, it's what it implies for the Browns' season. A rookie quarterback meeting a head coach and establishing mutual respect on day one, that's rare, and it sets a foundation for growth, trust, and competition without drama. Meanwhile, the media continued spinning narratives about friction or skepticism, completely overlooking this defining moment. This first meeting also quietly foreshadowed Sanders' approach to leadership. He'd already proven in college that he could handle pressure, distractions, and intense scrutiny. In Cleveland, he showed the same traits: focus, respect, and readiness. The handshake was the first tangible proof that Sanders wasn't just talented, he was coachable, self-aware, and prepared for the NFL grind. So while headlines screamed controversy and speculation, this small, easily missed interaction revealed the bigger picture. Monken and Sanders were already aligned in philosophy, understanding, and intent. That first handshake, that quick exchange, quietly declared the quarterback competition would be about skill, not ego. And for fans watching closely, it sent a message they might not have realized at the time. The Browns had a player ready to step up and a coach ready to trust him. The drama wasn't in tension, it was in what they were quietly building behind the scenes. The thing most fans miss about Shedeur Sanders isn't his arm, his mobility, or his stats, it's his awareness. Sanders arrived in Cleveland fully aware that nothing in the NFL is handed out. Every snap, every practice, every meeting with Todd Monken would be a test, and he knew it. Reports suggest the media painted him as some untouchable rookie sensation, but Sanders didn't buy into the hype. He understood the quarterback room is a battlefield, and he came prepared. From the very first press conference, it was clear Sanders was not caught off guard. When Monken said that his role was to be determined, most would panic or overreact. Not Sanders, he welcomed it. He called it expected, normal, even motivating. Some fans believe that a rookie hearing that might feel slighted, but Sanders, he turned it into a personal challenge. Every day became a proving ground. Every throw, every drill, every interaction with coaches and teammates was an opportunity to earn trust and command respect. He wasn't just showing up, he was setting his own standard. That mindset extends beyond the field. Sanders spoke openly about mental toughness, about sticking through emotional highs and lows, about understanding what's in his control versus what isn't. In an era where quarterbacks can implode under scrutiny, his emotional discipline stands out. Rumors suggest other quarterbacks in the room may have felt pressure, maybe even tension, knowing Sanders' calm, focused approach. That quiet confidence doesn't scream for attention, it forces people to notice. The drama doesn't stop at mindset. Sanders' interactions in the locker room are reportedly smooth, respectful, and intentional. He listens to veteran players, learns from the coaching staff, and demonstrates leadership without demanding it. Analysts are debating whether this quiet approach could give him an edge over veterans like Deshaun Watson, and some fans claim Sanders' humility might actually become his weapon. While others chase headlines, Sanders is quietly building relationships, studying the playbook, and sharpening his instincts. Here's the kicker: Sanders knows the narrative outside the locker room is messy. The Cleveland media continues to spin stories about friction, doubt, or favoritism, yet Sanders doesn't engage. He understands that his reputation, his brand, and his trajectory are shaped by his performance, not gossip. That awareness, the ability to filter noise, focus internally, and execute, is what separates rookies who fade from rookies who dominate. And what happened next caught everyone off guard. Sanders' quiet confidence isn't arrogance. It's a calculated, deliberate approach to navigating the NFL's pressures. By the time preseason snaps roll around, he won't just be competing for a starting role, he'll be doing it with clarity, poise, and a mindset that most rookies can't match. Sanders knows exactly what's happening. He sees the competition, the speculation, and the potential pitfalls. And he's ready, not just to survive the NFL, but to thrive, all while keeping his focus laser-sharp and his composure unshakable. The story isn't chaos, it's a masterclass in preparation, awareness, and quiet dominance. The headlines tell one story, but the reality inside the Cleveland Browns facility is completely different. Fans scrolling through social media might think Shedeur Sanders and Todd Monken are at odds, that there's tension, or that the rookie is somehow being challenged unfairly. Rumors suggest Monken might even look in a different direction in 2027. But the evidence, the moments Sanders and Monken have shared on and off the field, paint a far more controlled, professional, and strategic picture. From the first handshake, the dynamic was clear. Reports indicate Monken personally met Sanders immediately upon his arrival in Cleveland. That wasn't just a courtesy, it was a statement. Monken made it known who his quarterback would be under his system, and Sanders responded with the kind of respect and readiness only elite players can deliver. Analysts have debated whether this is just rookie enthusiasm, or if Sanders is quietly signaling that he is already a leader in the making. Some fans believe it's a mix of both, but one thing is undeniable. Sanders knows this is a competition, and he is fully aware that nothing is guaranteed. The narrative pushed by Cleveland media contrasts sharply with what's happening behind closed doors. Clips of Monken praising Sanders during press conferences show excitement, not skepticism. He consistently highlights Sanders' work ethic, his mental toughness, and his adaptability. While headlines might spin stories about uncertainty or potential benching, Monken's words show respect and trust in Sanders' abilities. The rookie isn't unaware of the stakes. In fact, he embraces them. Every to-be-determined remark from the coach is a challenge Sanders meets with preparation, focus, and confidence. What the media doesn't capture is the locker room atmosphere. Sanders reportedly listens, absorbs, and collaborates. He doesn't need to shout to establish dominance. His leadership is subtle, tactical, and highly effective. Teammates reportedly notice his poise and maturity, especially compared to more volatile players around him. Rumors suggest that some veterans in the room might feel the pressure, but Sanders isn't here to compete with personalities, he's here to compete with performance. Every practice, every meeting, every snap is an opportunity to validate his role. Off the field, the story continues. Social media chatter paints Sanders as quiet, reserved, almost invisible. But this is intentional. Sanders understands the NFL ecosystem. Fans, media, and analysts will try to define him before he even takes a full series. He filters the noise, maintains focus, and lets his performance do the talking. Analysts are raising eyebrows at how strategically calm he is under pressure. Some claim this level of discipline could turn the rookie into one of the most unshakable quarterbacks the league has seen in years. And here where it gets dramatic. While fans debate narrative versus reality, Sanders isn't reacting, he's anticipating. He knows every rumor, every speculative headline, and every whispered prediction. And while the world questions, he prepares. This is more than a rookie season, it's a calculated demonstration of mental toughness, awareness, and resilience. The competition exists, yes, but so does a plan, executed quietly, efficiently, and with undeniable focus. In the end, the real story isn't conflict, it's clarity, strategy, and discipline. Sanders sees the narrative, acknowledges the competition, and positions himself to not just survive the NFL scrutiny, but to thrive. The drama is external, the control is internal, and that's the angle most fans have yet to grasp. The headlines suggest uncertainty, but the real story inside the Cleveland Browns facility is far more calculated. Reports claim that Todd Monken is keeping Shedeur Sanders' role to be determined, and instantly speculation exploded online. Some fans believe this is a sign of doubt or even tension, but anyone observing closely knows this is classic NFL strategy. The Browns aren't being vague because they're unsure, they're being vague because they're controlling the narrative. From a coaching perspective, ambiguity serves a purpose. Analysts suggest that when a rookie quarterback arrives, especially one as hyped as Sanders, creating controlled uncertainty forces focus. It prevents complacency. Reports indicate that Monken has made it clear in private meetings that Sanders' job isn't handed over, it's earned every single day in practice, preparation, and performance. This is a subtle power move signaling to every player in the room that no one is safe from accountability, no matter how talented. And that includes a rookie with immense hype. Some observers argue that the TBD label is a media trap. Cleveland reporters, hungry for controversy, latch onto every comment and create drama that doesn't exist in reality. Rumors suggest that the Browns actually want Sanders to feel the pressure, but not to panic, just to sharpen his competitive edge. This isn't disrespect, it's mentorship wrapped in a high-stakes environment. Sanders, by all accounts, understands this implicitly. While fans debate the significance of vague headlines, Sanders is already calculating the steps he needs to take to prove himself. The league is full of rookies who peak too early, overwhelmed by attention or media narratives. Analysts point out that the Browns' approach may be a deliberate hedge against this very phenomenon. By not announcing a fixed starting role, the team maintains control over the storyline while testing how Sanders handles uncertainty, criticism, and competition. Observers claim this quiet tension can accelerate growth in ways public praise never could. It's mental conditioning, not conflict. Locker room dynamics also play a role. Rumors have circulated about potential friction between rookies and veterans, but sources suggest Sanders is using the ambiguity to his advantage. By keeping a low profile while performing at a high level in practice, he earns respect quietly. Veteran quarterbacks, coaches, and teammates reportedly see a player who doesn't just talk, he delivers when it counts. This controlled uncertainty creates a natural hierarchy where performance dictates leadership, not ego or hype. Off the field, speculation fuels social media narratives that the Browns might be undecided or second-guessing Sanders. But insiders claim this is exactly the point. The team is monitoring reactions, both from the rookie and from fans, to gauge resilience, focus, and emotional intelligence. Some analysts argue this approach is unconventional, even risky, but the payoff is potentially huge. A quarterback who thrives under pressure, immune to distractions, and capable of commanding the locker room through competence rather than headlines. The public might never see the full depth of this strategy. While tweets and articles spin uncertainty, the real story is one of discipline, psychological conditioning, and deliberate narrative control. Sanders knows exactly what's happening, even if the fans don't. Every to-be-determined remark isn't a warning, it's a test, a challenge, and a roadmap for the season ahead. The Browns are keeping it vague, but the lesson is clear. In this environment, preparation speaks louder than speculation, and the player who stays focused will define the narrative, not the media. The story the media is telling and the reality in the Browns' locker room could not be more different. Headlines claim tension between Shedeur Sanders and Todd Monken, hinting that Monken might be moving on or that Sanders is somehow underperforming. Clips are spun, quotes are taken out of context, and suddenly a narrative exists that paints Sanders as a problem or a distraction. But insiders tell a very different story, one that the casual fan rarely sees. Sources close to the team say the interactions between Sanders and Monken have been nothing short of professional, respectful, and even warm. One unverified report claims that the first time they met, Monken jokingly said, "We tried to draft your ass last year," and Sanders responded with a smile. That moment, lighthearted and brief, has been twisted into evidence of tension by the media. Analysts point out that every meeting, press conference, and one-on-one is being dissected for drama, when in reality, it's part of standard team building and rookie orientation. Some fans believe the media thrives on creating controversy where none exists. Cleveland sports reporters have a history of amplifying small uncertainties into full-blown stories, and this appears to be one of those cases. The narrative suggests Sanders is under scrutiny, but insiders insist he has full support from Monken. Reports claim that the coach has repeatedly praised Sanders' work ethic, mental toughness, and leadership potential both publicly and privately. Every to-be-determined comment about his role is a strategic move, designed to motivate rather than demoralize. Locker room dynamics also tell a different story. Rumors suggested that veteran quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson might see Sanders as a threat, sparking competition or even resentment. Yet multiple sources claim the opposite is happening. Sanders is quietly earning respect, showing up early, studying film, and taking constructive criticism in stride. Analysts note that this subtle, disciplined approach often works better than public showdowns because it demonstrates leadership through action, not words. The competition, as described by insiders, is healthy, structured, and entirely expected in any NFL setting. Social media reactions amplify perceived tension, creating a feedback loop where fans react to headlines rather than reality. Reports suggest Sanders is aware of the noise but remains unfazed. He knows that media speculation is fleeting, but preparation, poise, and consistent performance are what define his career. Some insiders even say that Monken uses this to test both Sanders' focus and the locker room's response. It's a lesson in patience, composure, and leadership under scrutiny. Analysts also argue that contrasting the media's narrative with what happens on the field highlights the league-wide challenge rookies face. Every draft prospect must navigate hype, rumor, and public opinion, all while proving themselves in practice and preseason games. Sanders appears to be mastering this balancing act. Reports claim that while the media chases controversy, Sanders stays locked on fundamentals, mechanics, decision-making, and earning the trust of his teammates. The difference between media and reality is striking. On paper, the story is drama and uncertainty. In practice, it's discipline and mentorship. Sanders and Monken share mutual respect, a focus on growth, and a commitment to the team's success. While fans debate and reporters speculate, insiders insist the Browns are quietly building a quarterback who can thrive under pressure, handle scrutiny, and lead by example. In this battle between narrative and truth, it's clear who is in control. Not the headlines, but the work ethic, poise, and quiet confidence of a young quarterback learning the ropes. The lesson is simple but profound. In the NFL, media narratives are loud, fleeting, and often misleading. Reality, quiet, focused, and measured, always speaks louder. And for Sanders, that reality may be the foundation of a career that the hype can't touch. If you've been following the Browns saga closely, you might think you understand the situation between Shedeur Sanders and Todd Monken. Media outlets have been spinning the story, hinting at tension, questioning loyalty, and suggesting that Monken might be looking elsewhere. But here's the thing almost nobody is talking about. The biggest clue that changes the entire narrative is hiding in plain sight. It wasn't a press conference, a soundbite, or a headline. It was a simple, unscripted interaction, the kind the cameras barely caught. Reports claim that the very first moment Sanders met Monken in Cleveland was casual, yet telling. Monken reportedly joked, "We tried to draft your ass last year," and Sanders smiled, shook his hand, and laughed. On the surface, it's a friendly greeting, almost forgettable. But this small moment revealed the dynamic: mutual respect, humor, and a shared understanding that both were here to win, not to play politics. Some fans might dismiss this as trivial, but insiders suggest that these unscripted micro-interactions are where NFL chemistry is often decided. The locker room thrives on these subtle signals: the handshake, the first meeting, the brief conversation that sets the tone for months to come. It's where a rookie's mindset is tested, and where coaches gauge not just talent, but attitude and resilience. In Sanders' case, his composure and calm confidence immediately signaled that he's not just aware of the competition, he welcomes it. And what about the media frenzy that followed? Headlines screamed tension, rivalry, and uncertainty. Analysts speculated on Monken's true intentions, and suggested that Sanders might be on thin ice before he even threw a pass. But those closest to the team, people inside the facility, tell a very different story. Reports claim the coach has consistently praised Sanders' work ethic, decision-making, and leadership. Every role to be determined statement isn't a warning, it's strategy. It's a coach keeping a rookie hungry, motivated, and focused. The real clue? Sanders doesn't flinch under scrutiny. He listens, adapts, and quietly demonstrates why he deserves the trust being given. Locker room dynamics further highlight what the cameras missed. Rumors suggested veteran quarterbacks might see Sanders as a threat, possibly creating friction. Yet sources insist the opposite is happening. Sanders is earning respect not through confrontation but by example. Arriving early, studying film, taking feedback seriously. These actions send a message far louder than words. In the NFL, quiet confidence often beats flashy statements, and Sanders appears to have mastered that art. Then there's the psychological angle, often overlooked by fans and analysts alike. Sanders has endured media hype, public pressure, and rookie scrutiny, all while maintaining focus on the fundamentals. Reports claim that teammates and staff have been impressed by his mental toughness. The clue here isn't a comment or a headline, it's his poise under pressure, his ability to separate noise from preparation. Observers argue this mental edge could be what sets him apart in a highly competitive quarterback room. Finally, the biggest clue everyone missed: the alignment between Sanders and Monken. The coach's praise, the rookie's humility, the subtle interactions, they all point to one thing. This is not tension, conflict, or uncertainty. This is the beginning of a partnership built on respect, strategy, and a shared goal: winning football games, while the media continues to search for drama. Insiders see a different story unfolding, one of mentorship, discipline, and quiet dominance. The lesson is clear. In the NFL, it's often the small, overlooked moments that reveal the truth. While headlines chase controversy, the real story is in the handshake, the smile, and the respect earned quietly in the locker room. And for Sanders, this could be the foundation of a career that speaks louder than speculation ever could. So what's really going on with Shedeur Sanders and Todd Monken? On the surface, the media has painted a picture of tension, uncertainty, and possible locker room friction. Headlines hint at a coach who might be ready to move in another direction or a rookie who could struggle to earn his place. But when you dig deeper, the truth looks far more nuanced and far more interesting than any article or clip has suggested. Let's start with Sanders. The rookie entered Cleveland under immense scrutiny. Reports suggest fans and analysts questioned his readiness, doubted his ability to handle a competitive quarterback room, and wondered if he could match up against veteran leadership. But Sanders' approach tells a different story. He's quiet, composed, and focused on fundamentals. Sources close to the team note that from the very first interactions, he's shown maturity beyond his years, studying film meticulously, learning from Monken, and treating every practice like a high-stakes game. That's a rookie who understands that respect isn't demanded, it's earned. Then there's Todd Monken. Some narratives suggest he's ambivalent about Sanders or even questioning his role for 2027. But context changes everything. In interviews and press conferences, Monken consistently speaks highly of Sanders' work ethic, leadership, and mental toughness. The role to be determined phrasing isn't a warning, it's strategy. A coach at the highest level knows motivation isn't about sugarcoating, it's about challenging players, keeping them sharp, and ensuring they compete every day. Monken isn't sidelining Sanders, he's creating an environment where excellence is non-negotiable. The real story emerges when you look at their interactions. Their first meeting reportedly included a casual, almost playful exchange, where Monken joked about trying to draft Sanders previously and Sanders responded with composure and humor. Observers argue this was more than a handshake, it was a microcosm of their future dynamic. Mutual respect, confidence, and understanding of shared goals were all present in that brief moment. In the NFL, these subtle interactions often define team chemistry long before a single game is played. Locker room dynamics also reveal more than the headlines do. Some media outlets implied potential friction between Sanders and veteran quarterbacks, but reports claim the opposite is true. Sanders' quiet confidence, willingness to learn, and focus on preparation have earned respect rather than envy. Every early arrival, every film session, every disciplined practice sends a signal louder than any headline ever could. This rookie is serious about winning. Even beyond interpersonal dynamics, Sanders' mental game sets him apart. He's faced intense public scrutiny, rookie expectations, and the pressures of a competitive division. Yet sources suggest he's maintained focus, filtering out noise while doubling down on preparation. This poise, insiders say, could become a decisive edge in a quarterback room loaded with talent. So what's really happening? The tension the media highlights is largely a mirage. Behind the scenes, there's mutual respect, clear communication, and a shared goal: winning football games. Monken isn't pushing Sanders away, he's challenging him to be his best. Sanders isn't blindsided by competition, he's thriving under it. And the biggest takeaway, the NFL is rarely about the story the media tells. It's about the chemistry, strategy, and quiet excellence happening away from cameras and soundbites. In the end, the narrative isn't one of conflict. It's a subtle, unfolding partnership that could define both careers. While the media hunts for controversy, insiders are watching a rookie's rise, a coach's methodical leadership, and a team quietly building momentum. And for fans willing to look past headlines, the story of Sanders and Monken is only just beginning. One handshake, one practice, one decision at a time.